Good afternoon, Guardians, and welcome to episode 7 of This Week in Destiny, a weekly Destiny news program airing every Tuesday covering the latest game updates, announcements, community content, and more. We've got a lot to cover today, so we're going to dive right in, but first, a few words on this episode's sponsor. This episode is brought to you in part by DestinyGhostHunter.net, an awesome site that allows you to enter your Xbox Live gamertag or PSN ID, and it will automatically compile an organized list of which ghosts you have and haven't collected yet. When you select a ghost from the list, a short set of instructions will pop up along with a YouTube video showing its location. Super helpful for anyone who isn't sure which ghost they've already gotten and which they still need to find. This week's Nightfall is Omnigul and was once again correctly predicted by our resident clairvoyant, Mega Man EXE4. I know the childlike wonder of seeing whether or not these predictions are correct is quickly fading since they've been right every single time so far. However, this time it's a little bit different, and I'll go into exactly why that is in a minute. So again, this week's strike is Omnigul, and the Nightfall modifiers are Nightfall, Epic, Arcburn, Light Switch, and Angry. And the heroic modifiers are Heroic and Arcburn. YouTuber Todd Awesome has created an excellent guide for this week's Nightfall that goes over each room explaining what enemies you'll find there and how best to deal with them. Just hit the annotation to check it out. Now, in addition to the new Heroic and Nightfall, a new week means another raid reset. Now, if you'll recall what I said a few episodes back,
Brian, there's no way there can be news on Crota's Ender Vault of Glass. They've been out forever. Brian, you'd have to scrape the bottom of the bucket to find a recent story about the raid.
Well, hold on to your helmets because we've got a new piece of news this week relating to the Vault of Glass. YouTuber Monotone Maniacs has completed what he believes to be the first solo legit Atheon kill. I think people could argue until the end of time about what is and isn't considered a legitimate raid strategy, but if nothing else, it's super cool to see a new way to solo the boss ever since pushing him off the edge was patched last year. And speaking of raids, you can watch our legit strategy guides for the easy and hard mode versions of Crota's End right here. Now back to what I said earlier about the business of predicting the weekly strike. Those who follow the show or frequent the Destiny subreddit will know that Mega Man EXE4 has become somewhat of an authority on data mining the game to gather information relating to upcoming strikes, Xur's loot, and other events. He's stated more than once that he believes Bungie has a specific way to modify Xur's loot from its predetermined random generation if need be, but so far has never done so. Well, this week everything changed when Xur's loot was reprogrammed. Instead of allowing nature to take its course, which would have given us the universal remote, Xur's loot was manually changed this week before he arrived at the tower to ensure that he would bring with him the Red Death. This marks a major change in Bungie's purported hands-off approach regarding the random algorithms which govern certain parts of the game. In addition to manually changing Xur's loot table, they've also supposedly added an additional layer of obfuscation to his code to prevent data miners from seeing what he'll be selling early. Redditor Marauder Shields 99 has posted claiming that all of Xur's loot now appears in the game code as if he were selling No Land Beyond, regardless of what the actual items are. It seems Bungie has decided to become much more active in regards to preventing certain information from being found within the game's files. This makes logical sense, as checking Xur's loot and showing up for the weekly strike and raid reset are currently the only incentives that draw long-term players back into the game multiple times per week. Bungie likely fears that if players learn the details of these activities ahead of time, there will be less people who actually log into the game at these times, and I think that concern is valid. In Bungie's weekly update, they spent a fair amount of time talking about the game's next major content patch, 1.1.2. While that patch is still weeks away from deployment, they've graciously provided some insight into some of the changes that we might expect to see when it's released. Here's the too long didn't read version. More vault space for more gear, fixed raid glitches, new audio and visual options, some type of change to the way ammo works in Crucible matches, and hopefully a shortened version of the Sepix Prime strike. This is also the first week for which comments are not allowed to be posted under the weekly update, which makes me wonder, what did you guys do? And now for the community spotlight. Lots of cool stuff this week, lots of great submissions. First up is Redditor Scooby Deezy, who has created a couple high-resolution maps of the Crota's End raid. If you've ever wondered what the whole place looks like from a top-down, Shrek-themed point of view, then this is definitely for you. And our second spotlight this week is this magnificent Iron Banner post created by Generic Dreadhead. You may know him from his elemental damage post we mentioned last week, and he's back at it again with another fantastic, super in-depth guide. In this post, he covers exactly how many games that you need to win in order to hit each rank of the Iron Banner reputation, and how often you can expect to be playing to reach each rank. Definitely worth checking out. As always, the links to both of these posts, as well as the rest of the content we discussed in the show, can be found in the video description. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or just want to chat, then you can hit me up on Twitter at RaidLeaderTV or leave a comment below, and if you missed last week's episode, you can check it out right here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next Tuesday on Raid Leader TV.